What's up, guys? Welcome back to another week here on Hit the Books. Lighter crew today with the two Yinzers out at the Pirates game. Huff and Jesse both inactive this week, but Mackie will be joining us here shortly as he gets back from a nice 18 out there in Long Island. But this week we got a guest with us, my buddy Kevin McDonald from West Warwick, Rhode Island. Big hockey guy, ready to jump into some of these NHL free agency moves that just took place over the weekend. But before we get into that, some other notable dates coming up. We have the Summer Olympics taking place in Paris on the 24th of July. And then right around that same time, we have the MLB draft, the Home Run Derby, and the All-Star game taking place. So an exciting time in the offseason now for the NFL, NHL, and NBA. We're ready to get going this week. Let me introduce Kevin, who's here with us today. Kevin, how are you? Let us know about yourself here, getting ready to be the NHL expert for the free agency moves.
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm happy to be here and know a decent bit about hockey. It's the only sport I like, so let's get it going.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's been crazy these last few days, and our Bruins. You're a big Bruins guy. I went to a lot of games this year, probably more than I did. But they ended up falling short of the goal once again, losing to those Florida Panthers. So a pretty crazy season. I believe you were at some of those games that they ended up losing in the playoffs. Any thoughts on that run by the Bruins this year as they once again got knocked out by the Florida Panthers?
So yeah, I mean, you think every time they go into a series versus the Leafs, it's going to go to seven. I think a lot of Bruins fans were having PTSD and flashbacks from last year when we were up 3-1, and then it gets pushed to seven. All Bruins fans are like, we can't lose to the Leafs, right? Thankfully, we had Swayman in net. Definitely carried us through that series, and we still gave Florida a good fight. Unfortunately, every game I went to, we ended up losing, so it wasn't very enjoyable from my experience. But I think in all that, the Bruins just need a little more firepower, and I think they did good this year on grabbing a few players that can really be key pieces in this playoffs. Because as you remember last year's offseason, everyone thought the Bruins season was going to be kind of a bridge year, right? Maybe not make playoffs, maybe make the wild card, but finish second in the Atlantic. We were first for most of the time. So, you got to think of it as an upside and hope that this year they can really make that push into the Eastern Conference final even, or
Yeah,
that's the
you're not wrong. I mean, they needed to make a big splash, and we knew that last year they didn't have the cap, signing a lot of guys to those veteran minimum deals. Then this year, coming in with over 20 million in cap space, dealing Linus Ullmark, opening up even more room. We knew they were going to make some splashes. I feel like the first time in my life that they've really spent on those free agents. Hopefully, it's not into a bust, but I think they did pretty well addressing the needs. Just need to lock up Jeremy Swayman. Kind of surprising to many Bruins fans that it hasn't happened yet. Some are hitting the panic button, but I think it's coming in due time. And how much you think his contract ends up? I know you were hoping they kept Allmark around. You said maybe
I
Allmark signs
was
a $1 million deal to be a backup,
I was.
but I don't think that's happening. He's out there starting in Ottawa now, and now we need to pay Jeremy Swayman, or else it's going to look tough in the net for the Bruins.
I honestly think Swayman. What do we have? About 8 million left. We have about a million and point two in dead cap, so we can't really use that. But I'm thinking he at least gets 7.5, maybe even the full rest of our cap space. To be honest, I mean, he showed us what he can do. And one of the NHL press conferences with Don Sweeney, he said they're looking to start Swayman for 50 games. You have Corpusalo and Busty fighting for that backup spot, which aren't really a solidified NHL starter over Swayman. To go back on that Olmark deal, though, as sad as I am, and maybe a lot of Bruins fans are, and when you first see the deal, you're like, this is awful, right? Then you really look at the draft when the Bruins got 25th overall. Last time they drafted 25th overall was Pasternak. Now they got a 6'7" center and Dean Letourneau, right? Played at St. Andrews College in the PHC. A lot of players are being like, or a lot of fans are like, I don't know if this is really going to turn out, right? You could have had a better draft pick, but this player is just one of the most skilled players and has a higher ceiling than a lot of other players do. They're just more star-studded prospects of raw skill. But hopefully it pans out. This guy either be a boom of a pick and be a top center in the league at 6'7", which is great, or just not pan out. So we have to trust Sweeney's drafting, which
Yeah,
we
I
can't
like
really
the
trust.
move. Obviously, could have gotten more for Allmark, but everybody we were kind of talking about this last few weeks. Everybody knew the Bruins were in a position to deal Allmark, so they couldn't get as much as they wanted, especially that no trade clause that he had in his contract for certain teams. I think the time to sell would have been during the season, especially knowing you're going with Swayman, but they wanted to give it one more true run with that tandem in the net, and now we get to see the goalie hug retired for the Bruins. But yeah, the Swayman deal needs to be inked, probably coming in the mid sevens. But yeah, we talked about some of those free agency moves the Bruins made. Let's dive into it a bit more because they ended up adding Elias Lindholm and Nikita Zadorov, a couple of big pieces from the Canucks, but that was just a couple of dominoes that fell in the NHL offseason so far. I mean, there were some big contracts going around. UC Saros set that goalie market, which is going to set up for Swayman. That Nashville team added a ton. Vancouver added a ton. But yeah, let me get your initial takes on how this NHL free agency has started so far for the Bruins and the rest of the league.
So we'll start with the Bruins. I think Lindholm maybe had a little more pay than what he earned as of last season, right? I don't think that 40-point margin is really worth $7.5 million for 7 years, but you have to give him that time with Pastrnak, Marchand, right? Really get him into those big key pieces, especially in the Bruins lineup, where it's known that a lot of players that maybe don't produce as much then go into the Bruins team and end up producing. Same can be said about any other team, really. Some players just don't work out at their team and they go to other teams, but happens a lot with the Bruins. And really playing with that Pastrnak line, I think it will be great. Um, and then Zadorov, I was personally hoping for $4 million. He's a big guy, 6'6", 6'7" defenseman, right? You need that. He's known as a shutdown defenseman. And I honestly think that it will be great, even if he's that second pairing defenseman, right? You have like McAvoy and Lohrei first line.
Yeah, I saw something with the Bruins defensemen all coming in at above 6'3" and with a bunch of weight on the
Yeah.
back end. They're looking to win some playoff hockey, and that's why I
Which
think
was which was
if they
sorry, which
if
was Sweeney's biggest hope for defensemen, right? He wanted to make that defense very locked down. He wanted to set a foundation on that defense.
yeah, that brick wall along with Jeremy Swayman, that back end could be one of the top ones in the league. Gotta hope some of that scoring pans out. I know they added some depth and they have a little bit more flexibility in the cap space to spend, but the Bruins, they did well so far. So hopefully they can make something happen. I'm looking for a trade there, but they were one of my winners for the trade deadline. I think some other
Oh
teams
yeah.
were the Devils. I think they had some good moves, adding some defense. They already had a pretty good team. I think the Predators had the best offseason, maybe the most to spend, and
Oh,
the
by far.
Caps and who's the last one I have here? The Caps and the Kraken both making a lot of impact moves as well. So
Bracken signing Montour. It's a big piece, right? Just coming off a
I
cup,
think
2
they're
cup runs in a
overpaying him
row.
there, though, out there, bringing in Brandon
10
Montour.
million is 10 million, right?
I thought it was 7.
Was it 7 million, 7, 10 million, whatever it was? That is super hefty, but I do agree that it is overpay, especially having a weak Stanley Cup final, right? His Stanley Cup final was definitely his worst series, by far, which you don't really like, right? That's the moment where you need to shine the most, and that's where he fell off the most. Back to the Predators. I think the Predators had a phenomenal offseason. Definitely a little bit of overpay, I think. But when you look at that Stamkos signing, right? You think, well, the Lightning just signed Hedman for the same exact contract. Stamkos last year was a 40 goal scorer, 41 assists, and you think like 34 years old, captain presence. Why can't he get that $8 million contract? And now he goes and gets that $8 million contract with Nashville. And I think the biggest question with Stamkos this year will be, is he truly that player? Or was it a lot of Nikita Kucherov, right? You have Nikita Kucherov feeding you pucks. Now you need to have Philip
He's been
Forsberg
doing it
filling in
before
that
he had
role.
them too. I think it's a massive sign. He's 34 years old, right? But that's just a great piece.
He
This
is.
Predators team was already in the playoffs last year. They had that incredible run in the second half of the season to get there. They
They
inked
did.
UC Saros to a long-term deal. They bring in Stamkos with that championship pedigree, captaincy background. With Ryan O'Reilly there, they have Trotz at the helm. They also signed Jonathan Marchessault, which may have been one of the biggest offseason moves.
And Marchessault only $5.5 million.
Yeah, that's crazy. And he took home the Conn Smythe, did he not?
I believe he did. It was either him or William Carlson, but I think it was Jonathan Marchessault. Yeah, I
Yeah, it
agree.
was him in
Um,
2023 when they took home the cup. They also added on the blue line with Ski, Brady
Brady
Shea.
Shea.
Yeah, I
Brady
know. However
Shea.
you say
Yep.
that there.
Seven
Seven.
$7 million too.
I mean, they added, and then I know that they lost a few pieces as well, but I think they added the most out of anybody, and they still have some more space, if I'm not mistaken, to keep making moves. But in that weak part of the West, I think they could make a run. Really, locking up Saros was the big thing, and then they built around them, and they had some good pieces already there. So I think that Nashville
I
really had
think
a solid offseason.
I I honestly think Predators are now the most or one of the most feared teams in the West. Obviously, you still have Vegas, lost a few
Colorado,
big lost a few big parts. You have Colorado, right? Nate Dogg.
Edmonton,
If Landeskog makes a return, I mean, Edmonton just re-signed Corey Perry, so they're bound to make the Cup Finals and lose,
yeah,
right? So,
but not
but what
McDavid
is that?
boys.
4 of the last 5 years, Corey Perry's been to the Cup Finals and lost. That's gotta suck, but I think
Dallas, the
Nashville's
only other
definitely
team
one of
that
the
really
top
comes to mind in
dogs.
the West for me is Dallas, and then Nashville's right there in that
Yeah.
mix now.
Yeah, I mean, Nashville even put up a good fight versus Vancouver.
Mhm.
I don't think anybody really thought Nashville was making it past
Except for
Vancouver,
Hoff, only one
but
on our pod who liked them, but I think he had a little biasy
yep.
going to some of those playoff games out down there in Nashville.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Um,
The Blackhawks actually making a lot of moves too. It's kinda crazy to me. It looks like they're in win now mode almost, building around Connor Bedard. A lot of ex-Bruins going there, so I know that they were making jokes about that, but I think they grabbed Burt, a few other veterans off the
they
waiver
grabbed
wire.
Bertuzzi, Teravainen, which was
I
drafted by
like
the
Teravainen. Yeah,
Blackhawks.
he's
I do too.
a nice power play
Um,
piece.
which I don't understand why they would be in win now mode, right? Next year's draft class, you have right now Gavin McKenna, which is Bedard's cousin,
Mhm.
which is tearing up the WHL, one of the top 2025 draft prospects. Why would you not want to fall into that top 3 pick again? Or even go for a chance for that number 1 pick? Now you have Levshinov, which they just drafted, which is one of the best defensemen in the whole NCAA, one Big Ten defenseman. You have Bedard, which was a 60-point scorer last year. And then you have his cousin, Gavin McKenna. I think that'd be a great 3, right?
Yeah,
It
but
almost
that's
reminds me of
living in
the
a dreamer's world almost just to end
that
up in that
that
top
is.
3 again. I think that they added well around them. They had a lot of other young rookies that were pretty intriguing last year in Chicago, and I think they saw how wide open the Western Conference is, so they it's not like they splurged too much. They aren't inked to too many long-term deals, but they added enough to be a relevant team, I think, next season.
I think you can just look at it as Edmonton, right? They had those 3 top 3 picks in a row. I don't remember if it was just number 1, but I'm pretty sure it was like Nugent Hopkins, there's McDavid, Draisaitl, I mean, Yakupov fell off, right? Um, but why not take it as at that standpoint and say, well, if we can get that one more bottom piece, now we can rebuild to that Kane, Taves, Keith, Seabrook era. And I really think the Blackhawks in about 3 to 4 years' time will really be pushing for a cup, maybe even a Western Conference final, which is great in their standards.
Yeah, I agree. A couple other crazy moves I thought that went out there was it Jeff Skinner and Adam Henrique that both side with the Oilers. Two veteran
Yeah,
pieces looking for a cup. That team showed they could get there. I wonder if they will again. But I think those are two interesting moves for a team that's not going to do too much more really in the offseason. They have their money
yeah.
tied up. We saw some goalie moves as well. I know that there was Stolarz moved on from Florida. I think there was a couple other pieces that got shifted around. Um,
Yep, Lauren Brossoit signed with the Blackhawks. I don't think he'll be their starter, but he's a very good NHL goaltender. Never really got to have light ahead of Hellebuck in Winnipeg when he was
yeah,
there, and then played in Vegas. Obviously, you had Aiden Hill, Logan, all of them, right?
and they're all moved too
Um,
now.
yeah. And I think Brossoit will be the backup, and I think they'll just start Mrazek again because just give them that load. I don't think they're in win now mode yet,
Mhm.
but I think in at least next year or the year after, they're definitely going to be.
Yeah, I agree. And then there's a couple of teams that I thought really lost free agency here. The Hurricanes didn't do too well, I don't think. They spent a lot to get
Yeah.
Gensel, end up losing him for very cheap. They lose a bunch of pieces on the blue line. They end up missing out on the top goaltending option, so I don't know where they turn from here. And then
Nope.
Martin Necas, is he on the move too? That's a big piece up front. So that's a team that was so loaded, and now they could be looking to keep pace in the Metro. A lot of teams that built up.
And I also want to talk about another Metro team in the Islanders. They made one signing with Anthony Duclair. That team is not very good, but they still made playoffs. They can still make a playoff appearance. And you wonder, why would you not want to make a little more
Yeah.
and see if you can get to that second round or even the Eastern
That's
Conference
crazy
final,
to me
right? You
because
add
that
a few more
Islanders team is
pieces.
so competitive. You'd think they'd go add some type of threat, and they just don't do it. I know they
They don't.
our Pittsburgh friends, they ended up getting Sebastian Aho, not the better Sebastian Aho, but
Nope.
they got
The
one. But
defenseman Sebastian Aho.
Mackey's Rangers, they picked up Riley Smith. I don't know what too much else they did. I know they're probably going to move on from Jacob Truba, which will be interesting to see as he's been a
Yeah,
staple
we're
on the blue
waiting for
line.
that. Red Wings re-signed Patrick Kane.
And
That's
Tarasenko, right?
yeah, Red Wings just signed Tarasenko. Re-signed Patrick Kane. Those are I mean, Tarasenko's still a solidified sniper in the league. Yeah, you can see what he can do. Obviously, getting older, he's not on his 2019 runs or St. Louis Blues runs.
Yeah.
But he still has that goal scoring touch. And I think if you get that veteran presence in Kane, which is still a great player,
Hmm.
and you have that Tarasenko that can goal score, I think that team, which we all wanted to see in the playoffs over the Capitals, nobody wanted the
I
Capitals,
agree. Yeah.
but their minus 37 goal differential, that's like the biggest goal differential ever to make the playoffs.
Yeah. But that Red
it's
Wings
not
team
very
was right
unique.
on the cusp, and now they bring back Keane, they add Tarasenko. I still think they need to do some in the goaltending department, even though they were pretty banged up last year with who was it, Husso and Reimer, I believe. Um, but they have some young pieces. They've been growing that team. Mo Sider, I like what they have on the point, and then what they have up front. Bringing now back to back years, they brought in DeBrincat, they bring in Kane, Tarasenko. Those are three elite offensive options. I would have liked to see our Bruins grab some of them, but a team that was a big loser that I was high on was the Winnipeg Jets. They lost so many guys in free agency, but they'll still be competitive. And then another team, the Vancouver Canucks, really taking in the Bruins trash, one man's trash, another man's treasure. Jake DeBrusk, Danton Heinen, Derek Forbert. I think is that the only three that ended up going out there?
Yeah, Heinen, Forbert, and DeBrusk. I mean, when you look at it and how it is, it's almost like we got Lindholm and Zadorov for DeBrusk, Forbert, and Heinen. You think of that as a win for the Bruins, right? But DeBrusk could blossom into a career year next year. He has a really good forward core. Besser, Pedersen, Miller. You have Quinn Hughes, right? You have a lot of players on that team that can really make a big step. And is that what DeBrusk needs? We don't
I
know.
don't know. I mean, maybe in a bigger role, he can be a 70 plus point player. I don't see it coming, but I think he can put up 30 goals in a good season, maybe 30 assists as well. Um, but it'll be interesting to see. Anything else you think from this free agency or anything else you think that's going to be coming down the wire? Like, what's the next move to take place? Any trades, anything for our teams up here in Boston?
So, I do wanna go back to that Capitals thing real quick. You said they're one of the winners. I also wanna see how you feel about them picking up Pierre-Luc Dubois,
Yeah, I mean, that was one
right?
of the
He has
earlier moves,
that
right? Through a
hefty.
trade?
Yes, through a trade, which sent Darcy Kemper.
Yeah.
Um, I wanna know how you feel about that $8 million contract for a player that is known as a locker room, like, toxic player,
Yeah.
and also is just not having any success anywhere. He had one good year in Columbus, which got him that $8 million contract, which they thought was gonna work long term, and now it didn't. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, if there's one place, there's probably a few, but one of the places that could really settle them down could be Washington. They did it with Ovechkin, some of the other
Did it with
places like
Ryan
that.
Strome?
And maybe if you kind of they're good at catering to their superstars' needs out there in Washington, especially the offensive ones. And maybe he can find a home there, being a top player, kind of learning from those older guys in a team that has a lot of success too. Look at the teams he's been with, pretty unsuccessful teams. Team that was just in the
Yeah,
playoffs and exceeded expectations. I like McMichael out there too. He's another young guy
yeah,
that they can
McMichael's a
play
good
with.
player.
But they're rebuilding a bit, changing out their goaltending once again after trying to make that splash with Kemper. They're gonna have to see if that pays off. But I think this team with the Hurricanes losing out, Islanders not doing much, Penguins not doing much, they could kind of find themselves in that mix with the Rangers and the Devils next year.
Yeah, I completely agree. Back to the Bruins. Do I think they'll make any moves? I honestly don't see them making many more moves. You don't really have any pieces that you want to move at this point. Um, I think the most they could do is consider with I don't even know, maybe a bottom 6 guy once again for maybe a pick that they don't really need. Um, but I think their biggest focus is just to re-sign Swayman. I don't think Sweeney's really focused on making any more moves. I think he only worried about that number 1 center and that one last piece of defense because I don't think Wotherspoon really cut it,
Yeah,
right? You needed that guy, and Wotherspoon was that 7th defenseman that had to play that 6th role.
yeah.
And I think now that you have Zadorov, you don't really worry about other moves besides signing Swayman.
Yeah, maybe any money you can save with the Swayman deal since he's a restricted free agent, right? Maybe you can put that back in the offense. Maybe you have some wiggle room with a trade, or but they're going to be looking at guys like Patra, Lysell to really step into their roles and grow into an offensive threat. 'Cause that secondary scoring, second power play, just some more skill on the Bruins is what's heavily needed. Maybe another center at the deadline or something, but they got to be pretty crafty in the way that they maneuver the rest of this offseason. Um, but yeah, the Florida Panthers, they made some moves too. They actually lost a lot of pieces, brought back a good bit, but yeah, I don't know if they'll still be what they are with who's out the door now.
I don't think so. I think the biggest question is Reinhardt just earned an $8 million deal.
Yeah, does he
He
play
easily
that
he could have
way
signed for
again?
10.
Yeah,
He could have signed for 10 because of this season, right? 57 goals. I think almost half were on the power play, which you need. You need a power play merchant. Bruins didn't really have that this playoffs, and that's what killed them. Um, but will he be able to put those numbers up again? This is obviously a career year for him. He's never been that guy, right? Last year he had some sparks. He wasn't a horrible player. Definitely wasn't their best. But is it worth an $8 million deal? I don't know. We'll have to see next season. I don't think it will pan out, but
me
if it
neither.
does,
And
then
like,
I
you're
guess I'm
playing different in a
eating my own
contract
words.
year, and then losing pieces. They lost Lomberg on the depth forward they had there. They lost Montour. Anybody else I can't well, Tarasenko's out the door now too. Um,
Tarasenko's out the door,
I
Montour,
think a lot of guys
they re-signed.
outperformed, and it was cover bust for the Panthers, so I don't know if they have that much in him. You gotta think Bob eventually takes a step back as he keeps going up there in age, and he doesn't have that reliable backup without Stolarz anymore either.
He doesn't. I think I think what they're doing now, because as you could see, I don't know if you watched all the Panthers lift the cup. I know I didn't. I just caught it on Instagram because I was so angry at it.
Mhm.
Um, Spencer Knight was the last player to lift the cup. I think they shipped off Stolarz, and now Spencer Knight is going to
He's
make
gonna
that
be
NHL
ready to
backup
get
appearance
back
once
into the
again.
NHL. He was that
Yes,
top pick, and he was supposed to be very good too.
he was.
But that'll be interesting. Some of the forwards that I'm still seeing out here on the free agency block. There's Tyler Johnson, Jack Lachovich, Tarasenko signed today. JVR's out there. Klingberg's still out there. Justin Schultz, Ryan Suter, Antti Ranta. I know the Bruins were linked to someone like Jonathan Drouin, who was playing last year with the Colorado Avalanche. So there's a lot of different directions of things, but I'm thinking there's going to be some more trades made here in the coming days. Um,
Druin did re-sign with Colorado.
oh, he's still back. I
Um,
don't know how they have any money to pay anybody.
I'm I I'm right with you. I mean,
They
that
paid
team is
Middlestat too
stacked.
this offseason,
Yep.
so
Um, if we're talking more on off-season moves and questions, I think for the Predators fans, right? You have Yaroslav Askarov. Uh, well, I think the best goalie prospect. Obviously, he's right up there with Wallstedt. He was one of the best AHL goalies this year. And the question is, they just signed UC Saros to a long-term deal. You have Askarov, which was I think the 14th, 13th overall pick in the NHL draft. Predators drafted. Um, what are you going to do with him, right? Because you'd think that that piece is your next franchise goalie, but now with Saros signing, you don't really know what to expect. Is Askarov going to be shipped somewhere? We might see the Predators make a big deal with Askarov to maybe get another offensive piece because their offense is good, but I don't think it's good enough for a deep cup run just yet. I think what they got is good, but I don't think it can compete with Colorado or Vegas or Dallas yet.
yeah, I agree, and Dallas is gonna be right back there. I know they lost some guys to retirement, some of those older guys, but they rebuilt along a young core with solid veteran group, so it's crazy to see, but some other info in the NHL here. I think that's a really good start to the NHL, free agency. Eager to see how the rest of it goes. We have some information here. The NHL did release all of their schedules for the upcoming season. I don't know if you thought of any crazy things that you saw out there. I know the Bruins have a lot of primetime games, essentially. They have that Centennial game. I know you already bought tickets to the first one, but anything else from the rest of the schedule for the league jump out at you?
I'm gonna be honest, I didn't see many of the schedules yet. I've just been so hooked on the Beast schedule. I've been dying for Bruins hockey, and ever since I've heard it, I heard it was coming out. I had to take a look today, and I didn't buy them just yet. I wanted to, but it's pre-sale, so I need a code. I don't have a code yet. But as soon as those tickets go up for exact sale, I'm definitely gonna buy them. Have to make it for the home opener. Um, but the Centennial game is gonna be great, and I'm just so excited for Bruins hockey coming forward.
Yeah, me
I
too.
think the
And
season's gonna be great.
I think the Utah, they don't have their official name, right? The Utah Hockey
Utah
Club.
Hockey Club.
Yeah, as of right
Yep.
now, the Utah Hockey Club, they're debuting on the same night as the Bruins, I believe both on ESPN, so that'll be fun to see. But the NHL is going to open up its season on Friday, October 4th with the NHL Global Series. But then the actual games begin here in the States on the 8th. So that Global Series
Yeah.
always throws me off a little bit. I always forget those
It
are
does.
actual games. The rest of the preseason's still happening. So we'll have to tune into that. But all 32 teams will be in action on the first time on the 22nd of October. Like I said, the first game in Utah is on the 8th versus the Blackhawks, so maybe they can even grab a W in their first game as a new
Yeah.
franchise. Stammer returns to Tampa Bay on the 28th of October. That'll be pretty awesome. And the tribute they were pretty great to see for the three-time champion with the Tampa Bay
Oh, yeah.
Lightning. And then the Four Nations face-off this year. I don't know if that excites you at all. Between the 10th
Oh,
and the
yeah, it does.
21st in the middle of the season. I know some players don't like that, but only four nations selected. What do you think about that coming into the season?
I'm actually super excited. I'm gonna make an appearance to it. Obviously, the one in Boston, not in Montreal.
Yeah.
It's United States, Canada, Sweden, and Finland. Is that what it is?
Yep.
So I definitely want to make a United States versus I think
Can.
Sweden and Boston
Oh, all
game.
right.
Oh, you would make one versus Canada?
Yeah, that'd be insane.
Yeah, I do agree, but I don't want to watch USA get mobbed.
I think
That
they
would
might
that
be
would be
good though. I
terrible.
mean, Team USA is
You
the up and
think?
coming one.
I do agree. Team USA is also very good, but I do want to see a USA versus Sweden. I'm very excited for that though. It's definitely going to make an appearance out in the Garden for that one.
Yeah, I know. I know Marchand and McAvoy were two guys already named from the Bruins to that, so I'll be keeping an eye on that. But I don't know, interesting to see. I know Pastrnak was mad that the Czechs weren't invited and some of these other guys from
Yeah,
the
he
other
was.
countries, so you hate to see that, but it'll be something fun to watch, in the middle of the season here, in the new year of 2025. The Winter Classic this year at Wrigley Field, that'll be pretty cool to watch. Our Bruins not in it. They've been in a bunch of them, so I still love that watching that on New Year's Day, so that'll be fun. And yeah, that's what we've got for the NHL here this week. Thanks for joining us here, Kev. But any final words for the NHL season while you're here?
Hope it goes well. We'll see what happens. Maybe some teams will make some big moves this offseason and surprise us during the regular season. So we'll see what happens.
All right, awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for joining us. We'll have to have you back on again soon. Hopefully, some of these predictions come right that you've had for this off season, and then the Bruins continue to bless you with some great moves to look for another
Yeah.
run here at the Cup. But thanks for joining. Some good insight today on the NHL.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and like I said, Mackie is back from a nice golf outing. Mackie, how'd you hit him today? Happy to have you back here. Got through some nice NHL content. Ready to get into the rest of the sports. But what's up?
Yeah, couldn't go over the NHL. I had a bit of a tea time, but yeah, didn't hit him bad. It shot a low 90s, so I can't complain about that. But yeah, let's get into the NBA and NFL and all that stuff.
Yeah, pretty hyped that you got that score coming down. I know Huff's been hitting his country club too. Looking forward for the next Hit the Books Classic that we took them down in the inaugural one. So definitely gotta get ready for that. But yeah, like I said, NHL good coverage there. Crazy free agency so far. Got to keep our eyes on that. But let's shift our focus over to the NFL. We've been doing our positional rankings here. Started off with the top teams, top coaches, and we went into our quarterbacks and running backs. I think this week we're ready to get into the wide receivers. Gets pretty interesting here. A lot more competition for those top spots. But Mackie, coming fresh into the pod, let me hear your top five wide receivers heading into the new season here in 2024.
All right, yeah, I can get us started. Coming in at number 5, I'm gonna go Amon-Ra St. Brown, coming off a really good season. I think that he's gonna keep it going this year, Jared Goff, and obviously that offense has been pretty good. So that's my number 5. Number 4, I'm gonna go Jamar Chase. I know a bit of a down year last year, but obviously he'll be back. It was Joe Burrow being injured, so they're gonna get back on track, and I could see the Bengals having a really good year this year. Number 3, I'm gonna go Tyreek Hill. I mean, he could do everything. I think his quickness definitely makes him who he is, but he's definitely a top 3 out there. Puts up the numbers year in and year out. Number 2, I'm gonna go CeeDee Lamb. It might be a little biased, but he's coming off an incredible year. He's putting up the numbers, and him and Dak have a pretty crazy connection. So, um, he's good for my number 2. And number 1, I'm gonna go Jettas. Obviously, he just signed that massive deal, well deserved, best receiver in the league. Hopefully, he can have a pretty good year with a rookie quarterback.
Yeah, I think he's pretty consensus at number one, which is pretty crazy considering the talent up there and him coming off of an injury. But I'm eager to see how he does with McCarthy, the new quarterback there. No more Kirk Cousins, has Jordan Addison as his two. But wow, Monroe St. Brown, he got paid like he's a top five receiver, and he can only get better, I think. So that's not a bad pick heading into the new season. A lot of names around that list, though. It's crazy to me. We're leaving guys out like Devontae Adams. He's like number 6 on my list, 6 or 7. He was a consensus 1 to 3 the last few years. But some of these new guys jumping on the scene. Nice shout out to Puka Nakua. He's pretty close to my list, but not in it. But at number 5, I'm gonna go with AJ Brown. I know he's been throwing some fits out there in Philly lately with them losing and not playing like the elite football they were the year before when they went to the Super Bowl. But I would take him on my team any day. I know the Patriots missed on drafting him. Bill Belichick kind of fumbling the bag when he really wanted to go there. So he's just one of the top receivers in the league. So huge physically and scores touchdowns, consistent, just leads a whole offense. I would love him in New England, but we don't have him here. So he's number 5 in my list. Number 4, I got Jamar Chase coming off the injury. I think he has potential to be top 2 receiver in the league. Still really young, the LSU product. They always have the great receivers, but eager to see how he does with Burrow. No more Joe Mixon, so they're going to look to air it out a bit more. Chase could have a year leading for receivers, I think, if he lives up to his potential. But got him at 4. At number 3, I'm going to go with your boy CeeDee Lamb, only 25 years old, so the youngest guy on my list. He's actually a little bit older than Jefferson, but one of the youngest guys on my list here. I mean, his play spoke for itself on that Cowboys offense. Him and Dak have been doing it the whole time he's been there, coming out of was it Oklahoma, I believe. Um,
CD.
yeah, yeah, he's just been insane since he's been there, and I can't imagine the contract they got to pay him. But I think the Cowboys are definitely going to keep him around. He would make any quarterback very good. At number 2, I have Tyreek Hill. He's up there in age. It's the only reason I might not have him at 1. He's 30 years old now, but he's a Super Bowl champion. He's been doing it forever. I think he's the most uncoverable receiver in the league. Jefferson just younger and has a deeper skill set. But Tyreek Hill is just insane to watch on the football field. Fastest person I've ever seen, the track star. So I got him at my 2 spot. And then just at number 1, I mean, favorite receiver in the league, and he just got paid like it too. What he does on the field, it's crazy how many catches he puts up, the yards, and the best is yet to come, which is crazy to me. But I
Yeah, it's
think
a pretty solid list. I obviously left AJ Brown off. I think he's definitely right there with Amon Ra. But I'm gonna be a little biased and say fuck the Eagles. So
yeah, that's definitely valid. And it's crazy that a team already traded him in his young career. The Titans traded him. They replaced him with guys like Calvin Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins, drafted Traylon Burks, but just crazy that you would move on from someone like that. I know we missed out when we took N'Keal Harry over him. That's such a tough
that's
look.
tough.
I mean, but
It's
Bill
tough to
Belichick
look back
drafting
on.
offense, are you surprised? Not really, especially with the wide receiver position. A lot of other good names though. Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Brandon Ayuk, who's in the media all the time, Debo Samuel. Just crazy the amount of names are out there. Cooper Cup, we didn't even say him, and
For Cup, yeah,
one of the top.
Nakua even.
Yeah, I mentioned him. I think he's closer than Cup just because of the age factor for me.
Yeah, yeah,
Eager to see if
fair.
the guys would have had George Pickens in the list. I know he thinks he's up there in the league, but and then there's some new ones. Do you think Marvin Harrison can crack that list in his first year when we're at this spot next season?
Let's see him play a snap quick. I think he definitely has the potential to be right there. Yeah, the athleticism is out of control. But let's see him get a taste of the NFL before we start putting him in the top 5.
Yeah, that second generation will be something crazy to watch. But yeah, he's just been insane. I want to see him with Kyler Murray. I think that can be a great duo. Um,
Those Ohio State receivers are they breed them.
LSU, Ohio State. That's where you want to. That's
Yeah,
where you want to draft them from. Anybody else? I think Nico Collins is someone that's been jumping up the scene. CJ Stroud loves him out there. Even Tank Dell, that whole receiving core, and then they added Stephon Diggs, another guy that catches a lot of flack. You have Keenan Allen, DJ Moore,
and
and
more.
O'Dunn's up there in Chicago. That's just a great trio. And then Mike
Even
Evans.
like Devontae Smith. I mean, I know he's obviously the 2 on the Eagles, but
Yeah,
he's
how good is
he's
that
the 1
guy?
on 90% of teams.
Imagine he was in New England. I wonder how good he'd be. But then even Mike Evans, he's been doing it for so long. He's 30 years old now too. He
Can't count
just
him
stayed
out.
in Tampa Bay, but so consistent. I know you and I both had him on the anytime on the card a lot this year, but it just always hits with Chris Godwin as well. And then DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman Jr. Those are the other two that I thought kind of turned some heads. Terry McLaurin maybe as well, but the league is just so deep. Even Jalen Waddle, we just saw him get paid too.
Yeah, it's a wide receiver heavy league right now for sure. Like guys like DK Metcalf on the outside looking, and they shouldn't be in a normal league. They shouldn't be down by like the 16, 17
Yeah,
receiver.
that's crazy. Just the skill compared to the running back position, which feels so thin nowadays. That wide receiver position is just the deepest in the NFL. And there's just
Pass
more
heavy
and more.
league.
There's more and more coming up nowadays too. They just keep getting bigger and faster. So eager to see this next generation. But I think if there's anybody that could take away Jefferson's one spot, I don't think Lamb and Chase could, but maybe Marvin Harrison Jr. That'll be a fun one to watch.
Oh, dude, that's crazy. That's a good prediction though. It's a good
If
prediction to
anybody
look
could,
back
I
on
just
halfway
think
through the season.
Jefferson, CD, and Jamar, they're always going to be in the same class, and Jefferson just has the bias. But if anybody
Yeah,
has like
that's fair.
the
That's
potential to
fair.
shoot up there, like younger too, and he has the pedigree, everybody wants him to do it, and you know they're going to see what 15 targets a game out there in Arizona.
Oh,
Um,
they'll abuse him for sure.
that division's pretty weak too. Behind the, I mean, I know that you have the Niners, but
Seahawks, Rams aren't
they're
very good,
good.
but the
No, they're not
Niners.
bad, but like they could make a playoff push if they got
No, but they're not like powerhouses. Like the
yeah.
Rams used to, coming off 3 years off a Super Bowl, you would think that they would be a powerhouse in the league still. They're definitely dwindled a little. The Seahawks are very beatable. Cardinals are obviously the worst team in that division, but you're not playing like powerhouse teams except for the Niners.
Yeah, that's true. But some good stuff coming out of the NFL there. I think those are good lists. I feel like it's pretty consensus that at least who's around your top five. Your top four is automatic, I would say.
Top 4, it can go 2 through 4 can go you can
Yeah,
interchange
but
them.
1 through
1 is
4 is
obvious.
everybody's in that.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah.
all have those people. But the NFL, we'll continue with our rankings next week when we get the full crew back together. We'll be doing the tight ends next, another interesting position. Could see some shuffles. Travis Kelsey should headline it, but there's some other young guys in there coming up the scene. But let's keep it moving here. We'll go over to the MLB. I'll start off with our MLB power rankings here. Our latest one for the 1st of July of when we posted these, almost 4th of July here by the time you listen to this. But at number 1, we have the Philadelphia Phillies still playing great baseball up there, leading the NL East. The Cleveland Guardians staying at 2, even though I don't think they're the second best team in baseball. They've been playing like it. The Los Angeles Dodgers, that star-studded roster, is coming at 3. The Baltimore Orioles at 4 and the Yankees at 5. The two powerhouses from the AL East rounding out our top 5. Any thoughts from you? Anybody that missed? What do you think about these top 5? Who's falling out soon?
Yeah, I think we both have the same kind of look on the Guardians, but they literally have the best record in the league, and they just keep doing it.
Yeah,
So
crazy.
we're sitting here waiting for them to fall off. I'm assuming that they're not going to be a top 3 team in the league by the end of the season. But while they're doing it, you got to give them their flowers. They're definitely playing great baseball. Those 2 teams up in the AL East playing a little worse than they've been throughout the
Yep.
entire season. Yankees are definitely sliding big time, 3-7 in their last 10. Orioles are just playing 500 baseball, so they're just kind of um,
I like what the
winning and
Orioles are
losing
doing
them.
though.
But
There's some more young guys. They're already super young. Henderson, Rutschman, the rest of the cast. They had Holiday up earlier, but now guys like Kierstead's jumping into the mix. Cowser. Seems like everybody that comes up is hitting a home run. So this team can only grow. Their pitching staff is banged up. Hopefully, it gets a little bit more. I think both of them add at the deadline. Deadline's coming up. They got Kimbrel right back there in the ninth right now, but I know the Orioles are looking to add another bullpen arm. But imagine you're the Orioles or the Yankees. How happy would you be to see the Guardians in the first round of the playoffs
yeah, I mean, it's not a team that you're going to sit there and be scared of, especially like those
without
powerhouses
Shane Bieber too?
in the AL East. But I don't know, dude. If they continue to play this way the entire season, they're definitely not going to be no pushover. They they're just hitting.
Yeah,
Their
Jose.
lineup isn't the best. The pitching rotation isn't the best, but they're just all playing really elite baseball right now. So if they could do it over 162 games, they might be a little scary. But I anticipate them to fall off at least a little. They'll win the division, but I think they'll fall off a tiny bit. Let those powerhouse teams kind of come over them.
Yeah, and I think that like you said, the Guardians they get Gavin Williams back too. That big pitching prospect. He's back in the mix. I think he's pitching this week, maybe even today. But he's back for the Guardians, so I'm excited to see how he does. But I think that Dodgers team can only shoot up. Phillies might add another bat. Imagine someone adds like a Lewis Robert or a top option at the trade deadline. A lot of these teams having guys make the All Star game too. I know that we went with our All Star bracket last week, but those final positional battles are coming down to it. One of my favorite ones is Bobby Witt Jr. versus Gunnar Henderson. I think that's just an electric duo there for the AL. But any of your Mets end up making the All Star game?
Not
Yeah,
not that I know of.
not
I don't
yet.
think
Not as a
so. I
starter, at
mean,
least.
there's no one that I could really think of that even really should. Maybe Francisco Lindor, but he missed, or
Yeah,
not
but
Lindor,
Trey Turner's
Alvarez.
gonna grab it now. I think.
I think Alvarez, if he played every game, he would, but he missed a good chunk of time. He's batting like 315 right now, though, so he's playing really good. But
Both of
I
our
don't think
teams will
so.
have well, even the Pittsburgh guys with their pitching staff, you with some of those hitters, then the Sox with some of their pitchers and hitters. I think we'll have some guys on the depth chart of the All Star game, which will be fun to watch. Like I said earlier, we have the futures game coming too. I saw those rosters released. I'm a big dynasty baseball guy, so I had Drew Jones, Ethan Salas, and Max Clark in that one. Excited to see that play out. And then the home run derby. You know what's crazy? It's less than a month away now, and we only have one person
Wow,
committed. Only one person committed to it so far. That's crazy. And
that's still.
it's Gunnar Henderson.
I'm telling you, this season's going a little quicker than last year. I feel like last year the MLB was just like slowly dragging the entire time I was really waiting for the NFL. It kind of seems like it's moving along this year.
Yeah, I agree. And Shohei Ohtani, he has 27th home run the last night, but he said he's not going to be in the home run derby this year. And I think it's probably more so to do with that injury he has as a pitcher, that UCL being torn, and the reason being he doesn't need to put more stress on himself and
Right,
potentially
right.
risk his pitching debut. But he's just been on fire. He's batting like over 320, 27 home runs, all the RBIs, stolen bases, walks. He's just insane. They got what they paid for out there in LA, especially with Betts on the shelf right now.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of cool though. My boy pointed this out to me. You don't have to see Judge and Otani go at it every year for MVP now because they're in opposite leagues. But I mean, they're both having incredible years
Now
this
it's
year. I
Soto
couldn't
and
even.
Judge, it's the teammates.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but I mean, Judge is just having an unbelievable year this year, especially after the way he started. It's nice to see him kind of just turn up like that and still prove he's the best out there.
Yeah, and, like I said, that it's gonna be interesting to see. Maybe Pete Alonso, I feel like he's always in the home run derby. He's gonna have to go into it, right? He's
He
st
takes he loves the home run derby. That means so much to him.
Yeah, is he staying in, New York? I saw a report the other day that said they don't think he's gonna get moved now.
Well, they're looking to deal him, but we're playing good baseball right now. We're sitting a game out of a wild card spot. I think that if we're sitting in the same spot in a month, I think there's no reason to get rid of him.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that they are able to, keep him. I would take him in Boston in a heartbeat. I think he'd be a good first baseman to add to our mix. Imagine him hitting him over the monster. But, I think they hold on to him, and he's gonna continue to do his thing for the Mets. But it's gonna be interesting to see. Gunnar Henderson, he's another guy pushing for that MVP out there. I mean, he's in the home run derby now. I think he's like 25, 28 home runs or something like that, leading the AL or close to it, with Judge. So, well deserved. maybe his counterpart Rutschman can join him. I think in the last one he hit both lefty and righty in the home run derby, so that was fun to see. But we'll keep you guys updated as those All Star ballots close out, as those home run derby finalists are selected. So yeah, like I said, MLB heating up, and Paul Skeen still doing his thing for the Yinzers. Hopefully they can grab a win tonight. Like I said, they're on the road watching the Pirates in person, so getting ready for that 4th of July holiday. But that's what we have in the MLB this week as it's heating up, ready for that All-Star break, ready for the trade deadline to get going. And we'll pass it over to our last sport, Mackie, kind of walk us through this one, as the NBA also had its free agency, pretty electric. I think NHL had a lot more moves, but some big dollars going around. I know my boy JT got paid, so him and Jaylen Brown are big money, Derek White too. But what do you think about the rest of the landscape in the free agency for the NBA?
Yeah, I feel like we're so used to seeing the NBA have so many moves and the NHL kind of sit still. It was definitely the opposite this year with all the big free agents moving in the NHL and not I mean there was definitely moves in the NBA, but it wasn't as many. But I don't know, who do you think were the winners? We saw Paul George go to the Sixers. I think that was huge for them.
Yeah, and
Obviously,
Maxi
and they re-signed Maxey to a max
lost
deal,
Tobias
well
Harris,
deserved. Yeah, I mean that's three upgrades right there, and then you got Jason Tatum obviously signing a super max. There was nothing stopping that.
keeping Derek
LeBron
White.
LeBron signed 2 years, 102 million. What's his face? Donovan Mitchell re-signed
Yeah,
3
with
years
Cleveland.
in Cleveland. So yeah, there was definitely some good moves here. Obviously, the Knicks got McCall Bridges as well. Who do you think are some winners and losers of this free agency so
I
far?
think the Celtics are going to be winners just for keeping Tatum around because he's so young and what they have. I think that I like the move, the Hartenstein. You guys lost him. I thought that was a good pickup by the Thunder. We see those glue guys being like the pieces to some success, especially with all the talent they have, the young talent, all the draft picks. They can only get better. They need some solidified pieces like that. 7-footer now, him and Chet Holmgren running that front court at 7 feet plus. I'm interested to see how that plays out. I think they can make a nice run in the West. I thought the Mavericks had a nice ad with Klay Thompson. They were right there, and now they get him on the wing. Only helps the way they play the game. And the two-way defenders, I think the Celtics kind of set the tone. You know how like championship teams kind of change the way people build their rosters now. A lot
Yeah,
of those
definitely.
two-way guys on the outside getting bigger contracts this year, showing you that that could be the key to success. I think the Warriors could be
Yeah,
a loser. I don't think they've made any great moves. I don't know if I love the Chris Paul move to San Antonio. I know Huff does because he's probably a CP3 fan. He's a big Wemby guy, likes that pick and roll, but I don't know if I'm in on that too much.
yeah. I think Clay to Dallas will be huge because that's all they really needed was that perimeter shooting and that down the stretch. I think they didn't really have anyone to rely on. And it's a spot where he doesn't really have to do much else. So, that Mavs move was definitely really good. I like Clay down in Dallas, but I heart definitely big. Knicks letting go of him. We really wanted to hold on to him, but if OKC is offering him 29 a year, you really can't match that. Knicks just didn't have the space to. So good for him. He made his money. He'll do well over there on that young team. So I'm excited to see that. But yeah, other than that, not much
I thought there
else.
was gonna be more, like, the Heat needed to do
It's
something. I
still a
thought
lot
they
of
need
time.
yeah,
I think
The
Demar's.
Clippers,
I think
they're gonna do
Demar's gonna.
something else. I mean,
I think DeMar DeRozan's gonna go to the Lakers sooner or later. I think they're just trying to figure that all out.
you think he's gonna
But
sign cheap for, with a contender?
he could.
Yeah, that would
He
be
definitely
interesting to
could.
see. And the rest of the
He's
guys signing are just, like, low-tier players. I know they're important pieces, but nothing, like, too notable. Usually, the NBA is fireworks, and not so much this year.
Yeah, it's definitely a down year, in
The
my
Lakers
opinion,
looking for Jerami Grant, DeMar DeRozan, you're right, I'm reading that a little bit. The Sixers, I don't know, I still am not bought in on the Sixers, and I think you and I were kind of
we're thinking the same
down on
thing, yeah,
Paul
I
George
mean
here. We didn't want him. That's not the ad. I think that's not the piece they need. Can he even be on the floor for a team that's already pretty injured? Um,
an already injury-prone team with a superstar who's always, off the floor. I mean, you're bringing in Paul George, who hasn't I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a hooper, but he's not gonna get you over that hump, in my opinion. We've seen it time after time. I know him and Kawhi, there was a lot of injuries that happened. They only won 3 series in 5 years, though. Go to OKC, Russ, and, who the fuck else was over there? It's mostly him and Russ. Him and Russ got stuff going, but they couldn't really figure it out. I just think that everywhere he goes, they think that he's the extra piece, and it's just not gonna happen.
yeah, if he can even be on the floor. I don't think he strikes fear into the Celtics. He doesn't strike it into those Knicks. I think the Pacers made some better moves, and then the Bucks. I don't know if they need to make any moves. They just need to have a healthy offseason. And I think they're kind of being written off as that one team in the East. But I don't. There's got to be some more moves to be made, especially for a lot of these teams are getting closer. Else it looks like the Celtics could run the table once again, in my opinion.
Yeah, Celtics are obviously the team to beat at this point, but I mean, teams are trying to
And
catch up at
you
this
you were
point.
saying though a lot of these teams need to do more. I feel like you guys, I guess the Sixers, but like a lot of the Mavericks definitely made a big move, but not a lot of these top end teams doing enough in my opinion.
Not enough to catch the Celtics just yet.
Just yet. But like you said, there's still a lot of moves that can take place. Bronny signing that guaranteed deal, him getting drafted to the Lakers, that's crazy, huh?
7.9 over 4 years. That's good for him.
Yeah, I mean
I want to
that's
see him succeed. I really do.
yeah, me too, because he has so much critics. It's the complete opposite of every other prospect we've seen in the league for a while. So it'll be interesting to watch. NBA is going to keep heating up. We'll keep you covered on that. NHL, same thing. MLB, we're in the full swing of it. We'll get you some All Star news. Hopefully, a live stream this weekend. Got a full day game slate tomorrow on the 4th of July, our nation's holiday. Yeah, and the NFL, our positional rankings, we'll stick to it next week. Hope to have our full cast here. Mackie, any parting words for us? Short day today, but good day on the course.
No, yeah, not much going on. Just full swing MLB. We keep
Got to
just
get those
keep an eye
units
out.
up a little bit more and
Keep an eye out for those picks. Yeah.
get the Otani prop going again. Hopefully some more UFC coming around the way too. In the Olympics, that'll be fun to follow. America taking home a lot of gold medals, so I know I'll be watching that everywhere we go. But yeah, a lot of stuff going on. And thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you guys next week. Thanks for listening.